excited and excited to see her little friends, I know. Did anybody get to go to Miss Sims' funeral? I did not. I know the young lady that works for Brandy Sweat, Danielle, that has the partial paralysis after COVID, was supposed to be getting to come home sometime this week. All right, let's see who this is. I don't know this name, guys, so watch your eyes. It'll probably be Cindy. Hey, Teresa. Trying to figure out who this one is down here. Hello, Fire Tablet. Who have we got there?
Unmuted. I mean, they're muted.
Yep. They're coming up. Let's see who it is. Hey, who is this that's listed Fire Tablet?
I don't know. This is Peggy. I don't know if that's me or not.
Oh, that's you, Miss Peggy. Yes, yes. Well, good. I'm going to rename you. Otherwise, I'm going to call you Fire all night. So. It's, hold on, Stellars. Is that right?
That's right.
I remembered something. I never remember anything. So we're gonna give me a cookie for that one. Have y'all had a good day? Good. It has been a productive
Hey,
week.
Peggy.
Hey,
I see you now.
There she is. Now I have to ask, we see this deer each week. Is this one you've killed or is this one somebody else in your house has killed?
my husband killed that years ago.
Oh, fun. We have one named Bucky in our living room.
I've got a big one in my freezer. Nick killed one and they can't stuff it or whatever
Yeah.
they do till September. So I've got, every time I open my freezer, it's almost like,
Oh,
what is that?
that is funny. We were getting ready for church services one morning. It was shortly after we moved here, and we had not seen a lot of boy deer. There was a lot of does and stuff, and the kids were at mama and daddy's or something. And I was in there getting ready, and John goes, Terry, come here. Here's a buck. And it was like a spike or something. I said, John, look to the left of it. There was an 8-point. And I said, oh, I'm going to take a picture of that one. He said, I'm going to shoot that one. So he is in his church clothes, goes around the front of the house, and I'm watching it out the studio window. And the little deer standing there, all of a sudden, boom, and just falls over. I was like, well, there you go. So he cleaned it, still made it to church on time. I thought,
Now that's a man.
I can't complain
That's
about
a
that.
man that can do.
I know it, right? Hey, Kayla Phelps. So glad to see your name pop up.
Hey, girl.
Hello. I'm so glad you're here. Y'all, I ate lasagna tonight, and I know better than to eat red meat. My stomach hates it like awful. So if I have to disappear for a minute, I'm just going to apologize ahead of time. I feel awful. So,
Not
which is not
funny,
good
is
when you're trying to lead a Bible class. All right, so let's go ahead and take some prayer requests tonight. I was just kind of giving them an update on our little friend Maddie Patterson is doing so much better. And also our friends in India, Vijay Mulaparthi, which is Helen's mother, is doing so much better, but there are quite a few that are just on right there at the deathbed. And they've already lost so many, and they just don't have the means that we do to treat it and whatnot. So we're gonna ask, actually, you know what? I didn't ask anybody to say the prayer today. If somebody would like to lead the prayer to start off with, that's great. If not, I will be happy to it. But the congregation in India, Helen's father used to be one of the Church of Christ preachers there. And so she still keeps up with them pretty regular, obviously, and her mother lives there. Hey, Cindy, we're taking prayer requests. You're
You're
muted.
muted.
What that means. I know what it means when she points to her rolled up sleeve, but that wasn't that one. Hey, Carla. She's still connecting to audio. Go ahead, Cindy.
Palmer has broken both bones in his arm.
Now, he told me that
Oh.
something happened, but he didn't know what it was. Bless his heart.
Yeah. And he was sick earlier in the week. He had fever Monday, and he he just didn't feel his best, but he tried really hard Tuesday to do well at karate. So he didn't get to advance, and they've rescheduled it for next week, but he was at para yesterday afternoon in the after school program, and his arm was in one of the pieces of equipment, and it didn't get out when he tried to jump off of it, and it snapped it. But they didn't even tell Gayla. They didn't tell Dwayne. They didn't tell anything. Dwayne picked him up, put him in the truck, took them home. Gayla said, "What is wrong with his arm?"
Yeah, Palmer was telling me about it during Bible class, but it was not, they didn't have their video turned on. So I didn't know what adult was there or whatnot. And he never showed it to me, but he was telling me about it. Bless his little heart.
Mm-hmm. And he sees a specialist tomorrow.
Okay. Please tell me they're going to Birmingham.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. It's okay. We will definitely pray about that.
I appreciate it.
Bless his little heart. Goodness gracious.
Okay.
He's a tough little booger. You know it?
Mm-hmm. And he's hurting.
Mm. Who else do we have, ladies? Did anybody get to go to the Sims funeral? I know I asked a few of you all, but not the ones that were on here did not get to. I did not get to attend that one. but-
Glenn did. He said there were so many people there, as you can only imagine.
I know it. So obviously we need to keep that family in our prayers. Lisa Terry's coming in. I'm gonna let her in real quick.
We're glad to see her.
I know it. So many faces on here I haven't gotten to see in a while. I'm glad you're all here.
Yeah. Glad to see Tammy.
Hey, Lisa.
Am I muted or not?
No, ma'am, you're not. I hear you, Miss Judy.
Okay. My sister is in Grandview. She was there all last night, and they didn't put her a room till today. But her blood pressure was higher, and so she's in ER because her medicine has a drip. So we need to pray for her. But
Okay, what's her first name?
meanwhile, she thought that it was really fun that she was all with those young, beautiful
No.
women with her last night in ER.
No. What's her name, Judy?
Margaret Bryan.
Margaret. We will be happy to pray for Margaret. Anybody else have one? All right, let's let Ginger Key in real quick.
And she's traveling.
Would any of y'all, hey Ginger, would any of y'all like to say the opening prayer? Do not feel like you have to whatsoever. I never actually call and ask somebody ahead of time because I don't think about it. So if
I
you
didn't
would-
write everybody down, or I would. I'm sorry.
I did. I'll do the opening one if I will let someone else catch the closing one if that's okay, guys.
I do have one, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
My sister is getting married June the 12th. And this man that she is marrying, I just really don't have a good feeling about him. And I usually can like everybody, but there's just something about him that gives me the creepy crawlies.
How long
And
have they dated?
well, he's been in Kuwait for a year and just got back last week.
Wow.
So, and they had dated, I don't even think a year, but he has a 9-year-old, and then my sister has a 7 and 6-year-old. And he used to having his son every other weekend, and he kind of has a hothead too. So I don't know how he's gonna handle from like not having children in the home to go into being like full time with children in the home with having such a temper. And my niece already struggles, like she punches holes in walls, and
We will pray specifically that if that is not what's best for her, that something will come in and intervene. And I am walking, talking proof of that one. Let me tell you about the great, wonderful piece of trash I was engaged to. So,
yeah,
we
she
will
just
just,
doesn't see it.
yeah, they don't. We can change anybody. We can fix anybody when we're in our own head. So, thank you for letting us pray for her. Tell me your sister's first name.
Krista.
Krista. I could not remember. I'm going to write it down. All right. Anybody else that I've missed?
I have a good friend that just really is stressed at her job. And just pray that God will open some doors for her um, to reduce that stress, either where she is or to find something else.
Okay, absolutely. And one I forgot about, it was Sunday night, the wreck up here at Northside that killed one of the seniors, and then another senior was actually driving and was in critical condition. I don't know if he still is or not, but just pray for that family. And that we maybe can somehow reach out to them and help them in whatever way that be. Miss Betty, are you trying to say something?
I think Tammy is, she's muted.
Hey, Tammy, unmute yours and I won't have to read your lips.
Did
There.
that work? Did that work? Okay. We were indirectly involved with that accident. The young guys were coming home from drill, and I don't know how many of you have heard that Connor has enlisted. And this is hard, but he went to drill for the first time this past weekend, and so this is all just it's bittersweet and exciting. But Connor befriended those two young boys on Sunday, and he had lunch with them and sat down and got to know both of the boys. He got to know their interest and excitement about joining, and just found out a lot about them. And Connor told me that at the end, they were sitting in their automobiles, and the two that had left had just invited Connor to go to Chick-fil-A as they were pulling off. And wow.
Yeah.
And Connor said that, he said, I appreciate it, but I think I'm going to head on home. And I am a firm believer, and God has his hand and on every one of us, and he ordains everything that happens.
Yeah.
And I've just had this, and I've talked to Cindy about it because she called me Monday. And, I prayed over him because, being the kind of mom that I am, I had to let him go for the first time on his own. And it was out of town, and I was struggling with that and praying really hard about it. And then, hearing about these two precious boys that, we just don't know. And you got to love on your babies every single day and everything. And it's hard, but yeah, I just wanted to share that it was just so strange how Connor was there with them and had just befriended those two guys.
How easily could have been there with them.
I know.
Well, we'll pray for Connor too, because that's got to be a lot on him.
I felt like it really, it was definitely, it shook him up. I know, because I had to tell him about it and everything. So but
And our graduates, all the young people who are graduating, it should have been these two young men graduating. Yeah. And Connor will graduate this next year.
Yes.
He's enrolling or enlisting early.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep Tammy busy this summer.
Good.
He's my baby. But y'all know how that is.
All right, ladies, well, if y'all will bow with me, if there's not anybody else that I've missed. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for another beautiful day that you've blessed us with. Thank you for this time that we get to come together as like-minded women and just study your word and learn more about different women in the Bible and different things that we can learn from them, no matter what their role was. Lord, there's so many on our prayer list, and we just ask you to be with them and help them in the ways that you know best. Lord, we ask for help for Danielle that works at Tuscaloosa Drug that has the partial paralysis and all that she's going through, and just please be with her as she gets to come home and those that are caring for her. Lord, we're so thankful for the progress that Maddie Patterson has made with her surgeries and her physical therapy, and we just pray that you continue to help her and help those bones to grow if it be your will, Lord. Thank you so much for helping Helen's mother to get better. But Lord, there are still so many in India that are struggling with the new symptoms of COVID and are just not seeming to make much leeway. Lord, please just be with them and help us to help them in any way we can. Please be with Palmer and his poor little arm, Lord. Our babies move around so much, and I know that they their bones seem to be in, Lord, but just please help him and this pain that he's going through. Please be with the doctors and help them to make the right decisions for him, and just help him to be strong and not to be scared. Please be with the Sims family as they are grieving the loss of Miss Patsy, Lord. We know in our hearts that she is in a much better place, and we have to find comfort in that, and the fact that she is rejoicing and finally receiving what she has always wanted. Lord, please be with Judy Richardson's sister, Margaret, as she is in Grandview, and please help her in any way that you can. Please be with Kayla's sister, Krista, Lord, that is wanting to get married in the next month or so. Lord, if this individual is not the right somebody for her, I pray that you put something in her path that stops this. Lord, and if it is, please give Kayla and the family peace if this is what is best for her. Just pray that you be with that whole family. Be with Teresa's friend that is stressed over work and the decisions that go along with that, Lord. And if it be your will, please help this job to get better, or another one to present itself to help her. Please be with the family of the boy that was killed at Northside, and with the young man that was driving that is still recovering. Be with Connor and all of the other graduates that are missing this individual, and just empty places in their heart, Lord. Please be with their families. Be with all those that are graduating high school this month, and help them as they go on this new step, and just help guide their paths and help them to remember where they come from, and that they are yours, Lord. Please watch over us tonight and help me to remember the things that I've studied, and may they be beneficial to the women here in this class, Lord. May you receive all the glory in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so irony of how I decided on this. Somebody suggested Mary, mother of Jesus, and somebody suggested Jezebel. And so I thought, well, we couldn't get more opposite. And I knew more about Mary, so I went with Jezebel. And then I chased 100 squirrels trying to get to Jezebel over one verse, where it talked about her husband basically was more wicked than Jeroboam. And I thought, who was Jeroboam? So you'll notice in my PowerPoint, we're going to back up and figure out who all these people are that lead up to Ahab and Jezebel. So I'm going to share my screen. This could be a long night, or this could be about 17 minutes. It just depends on how fast I talk. So let's get this pulled up. I have too much stuff on my screen. No, don't need that one. Bear with me. I closed it. Sorry. All right, going back to that. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up on your screen. Sorry, I talked to you like my kids in class. Give me a thumbs up when you can see my screen.
I feel at home.
I know, right?
Yeah.
All right, so y'all should be able to see my main screen. I need to shrink this to go to the view, slideshow, start from beginning. I don't know why. It doesn't matter how many times I do this, I still have to remind myself how to do this. Slideshow. Da, 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 da. All right. And I always picture Jezebel much prettier than this individual, but I didn't draw this picture. So can y'all see that? You have to talk to me. I can't see your faces.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right, good. Sorry. I had to shrink your faces so I could see my screen. So, all right. There's going to be a lot of reading tonight. So go ahead and get out your Bibles. We're going to be in 1 Kings. And I believe we will start around chapter 11. So we're going to go ahead and flip through. Again, you'll kind of see when we get to the end of this how I ended up way back here with David and Solomon. I've got to make this thing off my screen. I can't see anything. Go away. How do I make that go away? I don't want that. Shoo. More. Pause. Stop recording. Meeting. Disable annotations. Hide video panel. There we go. Oh, that was the wrong one. Sorry, guys, still trying. Hide floating meeting screen. Oh, there we go. I got it. All right. So a little history. Who was after Solomon? And this is kind of how I got back to this. So obviously Solomon was David's son. Everybody probably knows who David was. So Solomon, we know, had like a bazillion wives and like a bazillion and a half concubines and what forth, whatever. It's not their correct number, but there was a lot. All right. So when they ended up going from Solomon, I kind of broke this down into the two, and it will explain in a minute. There's still this orange box on my screen that I can't see part of something. Move this window away. Sorry, guys. I get so distracted. I realize they make medicine for that, but I don't take it. All right. So Rehoboam was Solomon's son and to be anointed king when Solomon died. Jeroboam pleaded with Rehoboam to make their burdens lighter, but Rehoboam made them worse. Let's go ahead and start in 1 Kings 11. And I think it's about verse 9 is where this part of it starts. And I realize this really is going to get to Jezebel, but I'm one of those people, I have to know where it comes from to make it make sense in my head. But then it makes you also realize these were real people. They weren't just pictures in a story. All right, so 1 Kings 11, starting in verse 9. And the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he did not keep what the Lord commanded. Therefore the Lord said to Solomon, since this has been your practice, and you have not kept my covenant, and my statutes that I have commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom from you, and I will give it to your servant. Yet, for the sake of David, your father, I will not do it in your days, but I will tear it out of the hands of your son. However, I will not tear all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of David, my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem that I have chosen. All right, so his son is Rehoboam. And apparently Jeroboam and the other people come to him and say, can you not make this lighter, these burdens that they put on us, these taxes and everything? And Rehoboam says, go away for 3 days and let me think about it. And so let me find my verse that we were at. Sorry, I lost my place. All right, so Rehoboam basically says, no, we're going to make it worse. You thought it was bad before. I'm going to make it even worse than that. And over on the right-hand side of the screen, Jeroboam became king over the other 10 tribes that were known as Israel. So that is going on down. If somebody want to read 1 Kings 11, we're going to read 29 through 40. If somebody wants to take that, if not, I will read it.
I can do it. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sandy.
And at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, the prophet Ahijah, the Shilonite, I think, found him on the road. Now, Ahijah had dressed himself in a new garment, and the two of them were alone in the open country. Then Ahijah laid hold of the new garment that was on him and tore it into 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, take for yourself 10 pieces, for thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I'm about to tear the kingdom from the hand of Solomon and will give you 10 tribes, and he shall have one tribe for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city that I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, because they have forsaken me and worshiped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of Moab, and Milcom, the god of the Ammonites. And they have not walked in my ways, doing what is right in my sight, and keeping my statutes and my rules, as David his father did. Nevertheless, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him ruler all the days of his life for the sake of David my servant, whom I chose, who kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it to you, 10 tribes. Yet to his son I will give one tribe, that David my servant may always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem, the city where I have chosen to put my name. And I will take you and shall reign over all that your soul desires, and you shall be the king over Israel. Did you say to 39?
You're going to read to 40.
Okay. And if you will listen to all that I command you and walk in my ways and do what is right in my eyes by keeping my statutes and my commandments, as David, my servant, did, I will be with you and will build you a sure house as I built for David, and I will give Israel to you. And I will afflict the offspring of David because of this, but not forever. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, but Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt to Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon.
Thank you, Cindy. All right, so Jeroboam was basically told, if you will do, by God, if you will do what I'm telling you to, I'll give you everything like I did to David. So Jeroboam has this opportunity to be great and to be great in the sight of God. Instead of serving God, Jeroboam decided he wanted popularity and power more. And so he gave the people 2 golden calves to worship instead of God. He also changed the place of worship from Jerusalem to Bethel and Dan, so that when people came to worship, they wouldn't be tempted to go back to Rehoboam and David's descendants. It talks about this in 1 Kings 12. We're not going to read all this tonight, or we could possibly read the entire book of 1 Kings. So I'm going to go to the next page. All right, so we're going to go on to Jeroboam, more about him, and then we'll kind of bounce back and forth. All right, Jeroboam changed the place of worship we talked about from Jerusalem, which was God's chosen city, where the temple was, to Bethel and Dan, so that his followers wouldn't go back to worshiping Rehoboam, or when they went back to worship, they wouldn't be tempted to go back to Rehoboam and David's descendants and following them. 1 Kings 12:26, I will read, I believe it's just that one verse. 1 Kings 12:26, and Jeroboam said in his heart, now the kingdom will turn back to the house of David. If this people go up and offer sacrifices in the temple of the Lord at Jerusalem, then their heart of this people will turn again to their Lord, to Jerusalem. Then their heart of this people will turn again to their Lord, to Rehoboam, king of Judah. So basically he changed where they're going to go worship, because he didn't want to risk losing them. All right, so he also changed the special days of worship, or the feast days, so that the Israelites wouldn't go back to Jerusalem. He changed those that served in worship. We know how that the men that were allowed to be priests were from the tribe of Levi. He changed that, and he even made himself a priest at times. Jeroboam was warned by a prophet. I forget the prophet's name. He was warned by a prophet to change his ways, but he did not. All right, so after Rehoboam and Jeroboam, we're going to learn kind of, I try to keep them separated. And if you see any errors in my thing, please feel free to tell me, because there were so many names. But I tried to put verses with them so y'all can see where I got it, and go from there. All right, so on Rehoboam's side, we know they're the split kingdom. So after Rehoboam died, his son Abijah became king. They talk about that in 1 Kings 14:31. After he died, his son Asa took reign, going down to 1 Kings 15 and verse 8. Asa, Geronimo, finally did something that was right. Asa did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. So we kind of have the good side versus the bad side over here. 1 Kings 15:11. Let's see. Jehoshaphat, his son, after Asa died, Jehoshaphat, his son, succeeded him as king. And we're down into the middle of 1 Kings 15. All right, over on the other side, Jeroboam. After Jeroboam died, his son Nadab became king, and he did evil in the eyes of the Lord, just like his father. I thought I heard somebody in the house, and I'm the only one here. Sorry. I'm just going to go with, I hope that's on one of y'all's computers. All right. Baasha, son of Ahijah, killed Nadab, the son of Jeroboam, taking his place. This goes down to 1 Kings 15 and 28. All right, so right here, we're going to go read 1 Kings 15, and we're going to read 27 through 30, if somebody would like to grab that one. Y'all pronounce these names any way you want to, because I guarantee you I have pronounced them wrong. 1 Kings 15, 27 through 30, if somebody would like to read that one.
I will. Baasha, the son of Ahijah of the house of Issachar, conspired against him, and Baasha struck him down at Gibbethon, which belonged to the Philistines. For Nadab and all Israel were laying siege to Gibbethon. So Baasha killed him in the 3rd year of Asa, king of Judah, and reigned in his place. And as soon as he was king, he killed all the house of Jeroboam. He left to the house of Jeroboam not one that breathed until he had destroyed it, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke by his servant Ahijah the Shilonite. Is that right? 30?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead and do 32, please.
Okay.
30 as
It
well.
was for the sins of Jeroboam that he sinned, and that he made Israel to sin, and because of the anger to which he provoked the Lord, the God of Israel.
All right, so basically everybody and Jeroboam's family was killed, and now we have made it down to Baasha, son of Ahijah, that killed Nadab, son of Jeroboam. Blah, blah, blah. So we are now to Ahijah killed Nadab, and Baasha is the king now. Whew. There is a pretty little chart at the end of this that shows it to you, that I stole off the internet, but it was correct. Next page. After Rehoboam and Jeroboam, we're going to continue on to Jeroboam. Baasha, son of Ahijah, became king of all Israel. This is 1 Kings 15. I'm reading verse 33 and 34. It's on the screen or in your Bible. Baasha, son of Ahijah, became king of all of Israel in Tirzah, and he reigned 24 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, following the ways of Jeroboam and committing the same sin Jeroboam had caused Israel to commit. So still Rehoboam's side got it going right. Jeroboam's side, not so much. Baasha rested with his ancestors and was buried in Tirzah, and Elha, his son, succeeded him as king. We've made it down to 1 Kings 16 now. Zimri, one of his, talking about Elha's officials, who had command of half of his chariots, plotted against him. This is 1 Kings 16, verse 9. Zimri killed Elha and became king. Zimri killed off Baash's whole family. All right, so lots of killing. We still haven't gotten to Jezebel. All right, after Rehoboam, we'll keep going. When the Israelites, we're in 1 Kings 16:16. When the Israelites in the camp heard that Zimri had plotted against the king and murdered him, they proclaimed that Omri, the commander of the army, king over Israel that very day in the camp. I'm pretty sure Zimri was the one that made it like 7 days, but it'll show me on my little chart that's at the end that I can't see right now. So Omri did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Shocker, shocker. He's on Jeroboam's side. Omri did evil in the eyes of the Lord and sinned more than all of those before him. 1 Kings 16 and verse 25. All right, and Ahab, wow, we finally made it to Ahab. And Ahab, his son, succeeded him as king. 1 Kings 16, verse 28. All right, so Ahab is Jezebel's husband. We're going to read about them now. We're going to go to 1 Kings 16. And we're going to read 29 through 33. Is that right? Yeah, I guess it is. I'm going back one. 1 Kings 16, 29 through 33. Would anybody like to read that one?
I'll read it.
Okay.
Oh, who said that? Go ahead.
I think Teresa was the one I heard.
Okay. In the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, Ahab the son of Amri began to reign over Israel. And Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years. And Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of the Lord more than all who were before him. And as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, he took for his wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. He erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. And Ahab made an Asherah. Ahab did more to provoke the Lord, the God of Israel, to anger than all the kings of Israel who were before him.
Thank you. All right, so verse 30 was the reason I had to go all the way back to David. Because I was like, okay, well then who all was before him? So that was my chase a squirrel down around. But that's how we get here, and it helps me. I hope it helps y'all a little bit to make more sense of it, as who all came from where. All right, so we have made it to Ahab. That's what we just read. Oh, that would have been good if I'd actually scroll. Okay, here's my little chart. So obviously on the left-hand side, it shows those of Judah and those of Israel. It shows the start reign. I did not check the start reign BC dates, but the rest of everything measured up as I was going. Anyway, not going to tattoo this on my forehead, but I'm just saying it kind of helped to be able to see it. So, and then also it showed the different prophets that came and spoke to them. So Elijah is actually going to be the prophet that speaks to Ahab here. All right, so Elijah, we read about in 1 Kings 17. I'm pretty sure this is a lengthy read. Let me flip over on my paper so I don't have to do it here. Yeah, nope, yes, no. All right, so this is just 6 verses. I'm going to read this one. Now Elijah the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, as the Lord, okay, by the way, in case I didn't say it, this is 1 Kings 17, verse 1 through 6. I can't see your faces. Sorry. As the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years, except at my word. Elijah, sorry, I just read the bold letters that tell me what it's about. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Kerith ravine east of the Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I have directed the ravens to supply you with food there. So he did what the Lord had told him. He went to Kerith ravine east of the Jordan and stayed there. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. All right, continuing on to 1 Kings 18. This I have broken up into like, we're actually going to read about 20 verses here, but if we could break these into 5, and actually it's 5, and then we skip a bit. But if somebody wants to read what's on the screen now, this is going to tell us a little bit about Elijah and what's happening with Ahab. And anyway, I'm not going to try to tell you what it is. But if somebody would like to read this one, we can kind of take turns.
I can do it. After a long time in the 3rd year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the land. So Elijah went to present himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria, and Ahab had summoned Obadiah, his palace administrator. Obadiah was a devout believer in the Lord. While Jezebel was killing off the Lord's prophets, Obadiah had taken 100 prophets and hidden them in 2 caves, 50 in each, and had supplied them with food and water. Ahab had said to Obadiah, go through the land to all the springs and valleys. Maybe we can find some grass to keep the horses and mules alive, so we will not have to kill any of our animals. So they divided the land they were to cover, Ahab going in one direction and Obadiah in another.
Thank you, Ginger. Somebody else want those next couple of ones there?
I can do it. Do you want me to pick up with 7?
Yeah, right. We're going to read 6 through 10.
Okay, all right. So they divided the land, and they were to cover Ahab going in one direction and Obadiah in another. As Obadiah was walking along, Elijah met him. Obadiah recognized him, bowed down to the ground, and said, is it really you, my lord Elijah? Yes, he replied. Go tell your master, Elijah is here. What have I done wrong? Asked Obadiah. That you are handing your servant over to Ahab to be put to death. As surely as the Lord your God lives, there is not a nation or kingdom where my master has not sent someone to look for you. And whenever a nation or kingdom claimed you were not there, he made them swear they could not find you.
Thank you, Tammy. But now you tell me to go to my master and say, Elijah is here. I don't know where the Spirit of the Lord may carry you when I leave you. If I go and tell Ahab and he doesn't find you, he will kill me. Yet I, your servant, have worshiped the Lord since my youth. Haven't you heard, my Lord, what I did while Jezebel was killing the prophets of the Lord? I hid 100 of the Lord's prophets in 2 caves, 50 in each, and supplied them food and water. And now you tell me to go to my master and say, Elijah is here? He will kill me. Elijah said, as the Lord Almighty lives, whom I serve, I will surely present myself to Ahab today. All right, so continuing on, this jumps down just a few verses, 1 Kings 18, 22 through 24. Then Elijah said to them, I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. All right, so he is telling them, you've got to decide who you're going to choose, Baal or God. And so this is kind of the way that they do it. Sorry. Verse 23, get 2 bulls for us. Let Baal's prophets choose one for themselves and let them cut it into pieces and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and the God who answers by fire, he is God. All right, so Elijah tells, all right, okay, let me back up just a little bit. Basically, we know that they end up killing Elijah, I think, probably has a little bit of fun here. They killed the bull or cow or whatever it is they put on the altar, the ones that are serving Baal, and they start talking to him. And Elijah's like, well, maybe he's asleep. Maybe you need to talk a little bit louder. And so the men start getting louder and they start cutting themselves and bleeding everywhere. And Elijah has them to make sort of like a moat around his altar. And then he tells them to fill the buckets. I think it's 4 buckets, and dump it on there. And he says, do it again, do it again. It's 3 or 4 times that he covers it, and to the point that everything is soaked and the moat is soaked all around it. And he calls to God, and God, the fire consumes it. And they realize that, okay, Elijah's God is the real God and Baal is nothing. And so Ahab goes and tells Jezebel everything that Elijah has said. And Elijah also tells him, hey, by the way, there's going to be rain. Obviously, those weren't the real words, but that was the gist of it. So moving on to 1 Kings 19, 1 and 2. This is when it's okay. I'm just going to read it. Now Ahab told Jezebel everything Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah to say, may the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them, talking about the prophets of Baal that Elijah had killed. So obviously she has a lot of power, and Elijah is scared and he runs off and hides, and he asks God, you know, this is all I can do. Lord, please just take my life. And the angel of the Lord appears to him when he is sleeping under the tree that's shaped like a broom, which I thought was odd. And says, hey, wake up and eat. You're going to need your strength. Apparently he falls asleep again. Same thing happens. And the angel tells him, arise and eat and drink. You're going to need this for your journey. Elijah goes on, I believe it's 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, here we go. We're getting to Jezebel. I promise. I feel like we're 45 minutes into it and we're just now getting to Jezebel. All right, so we're going to break this up in just a little bit, in a couple of pieces. I didn't try putting it on the screen. So everybody, if you will, turn to 1 Kings 21. All right, so I'm not going to try to tell the story. I'm just going to read it. I'm going to read about 5 verses, and when I get tired, if somebody wants to pick up, that's fine. All right. 1 Kings chapter 21, starting in verse 1. Now Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard in Jezreel beside the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. And after this, Ahab said to Naboth, give me your vineyard that I may have it for a vegetable garden, because it's near my house, and I'll give you a better vineyard for it. Or if it seems good to you, I'll give you its value in money. But Naboth said to Ahab, the Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my fathers. And Ahab went into his house, vexed and sullen because of what Naboth the Jezreelite had said to him, for he said, I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers. And he lay down on his bed, turned away his face, and he would not eat no food. But Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said, why is your spirit so vexed that you eat no food? And he said to her, because I spoke to Naboth the Jezreelite, and he said to him, give me your vineyard for money, or else, if it please you, I'll give you another vineyard for it. And he said, I will not give you my vineyard. And Jezebel, his wife, said to him, do you now govern Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let your heart be cheerful. I'll give you the vineyard of Naboth, the Jezreelite. Somebody want to read a few verses starting in verse 8? Maybe 8 to 12 or something.
So she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal. And she sent the letters to the elders and to the leaders who lived with Naboth in his city. And she wrote in the letter, proclaim a fast and set Naboth at the head of the people, and set 2 worthless men opposite him, and let them bring a charge against him, saying, you have cursed God and the king. Then take him out and stone him to death. How far do you want me to read?
Just a couple more verses. We've got to read all the way to 29.
And the men of the city, the elders and the leaders who lived in his city, did as Jezebel had sent word to them, as it was written in the letters that she had sent to them. They proclaimed a fast and set Naboth at the head of the people.
All right, somebody want to do 13 through 19?
I got it. And 2 men scoundrels came in and sat before him, and the scoundrels witnessed against him against Naboth in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth has blasphemed God and the king. Then they took him outside the city and stoned him with stones so that he died. Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth has been stoned and is dead. And it came to pass when Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give you for money, for Naboth is not alive but dead. So it was when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab got up and went down to take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. Let me keep going.
You can, just 2 or 3 more verses.
Okay, then the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, arise, go down to meet Ahab, king of Israel, who lives in Samaria. There he is, in the vineyard of Naboth, where he has gone down to take possession of it. You shall speak to him, saying, thus says the Lord, have you murdered and also taken possession? And you shall speak to him, saying, thus says the Lord, in the place where dogs lick the blood of Naboth, dogs shall lick your blood, even yours. So Ahab said to Elijah, have you found me, O my enemy? And he answered, I have found you, because you have sold yourself to do evil in the sight of the Lord.
Thank you, Ginger. I'm going to continue here, 21 through 29. Behold, I will bring disaster upon you. I will utterly burn you up, and I will cut off from Ahab every male, bond or free, in Israel. And I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baash, the son of Ahijah, for the anger to which you have provoked me, and because you have made Israel to sin. And of Jezebel, the Lord also said, the dogs shall eat Jezebel within the walls of Jezreel. Anyone belonging to Ahab who dies in the city, the dogs shall eat. And anyone of his who dies in the open country, the birds of the heavens shall eat. There was none who sold himself to do what was evil in the sight of the Lord like Ahab, whom Jezebel his wife incited. And he acted very abominably, and going after idols, the Amorites had done, whom the Lord had cast out before the people of Israel. And when Ahab heard those words, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth on his flesh, and fasted and lay in sackcloth, and went about dejectedly. And the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, have you seen how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has humbled himself before me, I will not bring the disaster in his days, but in his son's days, and I will bring the disaster upon his house. All right, I know that was a lot of reading, but there was no way I felt like I could summarize that and not leave out something important. So I did a couple of look for different studies on Jezebel, and this was a particular one that I had gone through that I thought covered a lot, but there's even some at the end. I'm going to see if y'all maybe can help me to point out that they didn't see. So obviously there's quite a few lessons that we can learn from Jezebel. One of the first ones they suggested was don't use good qualities for evil. Obviously Queen Jezebel had some good qualities. She just didn't choose them for good. She was smart and she used her intelligence to come up with evil schemes. Obviously, whenever she decided that she was going to write those letters for her lazy, whining husband, in order to get what she wanted. She had boldness and courage, but used those attributes to intimidate others and to commit murder. Obviously, she scared Elijah, for lack of a better word. She had strong leadership abilities, but used them to control her husband, who was king, and to take over the throne. She was assertive, but used the quality to turn people away from God instead of turning them towards him. She had a royal lineage, but used it to manipulate her subjects. She didn't become a royal by marrying King Ahab. She was the Phoenician princess, the daughter of Ithabal, the first king of Tyre, according to 1 Kings 16:31. So Jezebel could have used all of those same attributes to glorify God, but obviously she didn't. If you have those qualities, we should be using them for good and not for evil. All right, y'all jump in here and add anything that you want to, because I feel like we've just been reading a lot. Do y'all see anything I have missed so far, or anything you want to comment on? All right, well, I'm going to keep going. Lesson 2, they suggested, was don't use your power to do wrong. I think a lot about our politicians in this, and different political roles where people will use their power in order to do things that benefit them, but obviously not to benefit the Lord. Jezebel used her influence and power to get her way. She literally got away with murder, talking about when they killed Naboth. It was Naboth. Sorry. According to 1 Kings 21, Naboth had the vineyard, but the Lord had told him not to give up his inheritance to them. And Jezebel saw that her husband wanted it and refused to sell it. So she was so determined that she, makes this series of acts that end up getting Naboth killed. They say that he has said things against God and has, I forget the other word that was used, but basically that he spoke evil against the Lord. And she talked the other two men into, testifying against him. And he ended up being stoned to death. And no sooner than he was stoned, obviously, she says, "Woo, go get your vineyard." So Jezebel wrote letters to the elders that were filled with false accusations and character assassinations. We know that she committed forgery and identifying theft by putting King Ahab's seal on the letters. Obviously, it says that in 1 Kings 21. So there really wasn't anything she wasn't willing to do in order to get her way, or to get back at someone who wouldn't give her what she wanted. She had people testify that Naboth had cursed both God and the king. This goes on a little bit from lesson 2. She commanded the people to take him, talking about Naboth, out and stone him. So he was killed for doing absolutely nothing wrong. Ahab got the man's property, and Jezebel once again got her way. She told her husband to go take the vineyard, since he refused to sell it to you because he's no longer alive but dead. Jezebel tried to destroy those who opposed her. God's prophets were intimidated and afraid of Jezebel. We know that Elijah was one of these. Whenever her husband had told her what all Elijah had said about that Baal was not real and that his God was the real God and that they weren't going to have any rain. So they all had real good reason to be afraid of her, but she had commanded most of them to be killed, all except 100 prophets were killed. And then we talked about Elijah ran for his life so that he would be spared. All right, so obviously this is one of those Captain Obvious statements here. Jezebel, all right, don't serve the wrong God. Jezebel encouraged her husband, King Ahab, to abandon the worship of God and promote the worship and deities of Baal and Asherah. Remember, God had promised Jeroboam back before all this happened that if you'll do what I ask of you, that I'll give you all of this, and it just continued to downward spiral until it got down to Ahab. So Ahab took his wife's advice and worshiped Baal and Asher and rose to a national level as the worship of the true Lord declined. Jezebel is considered to be a bad person in the Bible, obviously, and she worshipped the bad, I think that's supposed to say the bad god of the Bible, Baal. Jezebel, like the foreign wives of Solomon, required facilities to carry her, is that the right word? To carry on her pagan worship. Ahab, like Solomon, built altars for Baal worship, which obviously we know was wrong. Because of Jezebel's heavy involvement in idolatry and the influence she had on her husband, Ahab turned his back on God. And according to 1 Kings 21, it says, 21 verse 25, it says, there was never anyone like Ahab who sold himself to do evil in the eyes of the Lord, urged on by Jezebel, his wife. There is a lesson within this one that I see, but I'm gonna wait and state that one at the end.
I was going to say that, man, Jezebel needs to be taught to young men who are
Yes,
dating. Who
yes,
are dating, because and along with it, the story of Adam and Eve and how he caved to Eve, so to
yes.
speak. You know, that's the biggest lesson I see here.
The power of influence of your spouse is the biggest one that they didn't mention. And it's just almost there in neon letters.
Absolutely. Mhm.
But yeah, talking about, and that it is could be a great lesson that so many of us needed. And, just to pick wisely, don't even date somebody you wouldn't entertain marrying, or you'll find yourself in, just a big mess like I did years before I met my husband. So, but yes, just the influence of who you date and who you marry. And, anyway, yes, agreed.
It also shows you the power of one.
Yes. Yes.
What one person can do, be it for good or bad.
One of
Just
the,
one.
yes, one of the lessons I had listened to talked about Jezebel's father and how he actually became in his position as he killed his own brother. So you can imagine the life that Jezebel lived as a child and the things that she saw that probably molded her into the way that she was. So yes, she was evil, but she probably came from evil. So another good reason to get to know your in-laws. So yes. You reap what you sow. Boy, is this true. Jezebel lived about 10 years after Ahab, and we're going to learn how she died. I never read this part until today, I have to admit. Jezebel lived about 10 years after he was killed. The other kings reigned, but Jezebel did not give up her wicked ways. When King Jehu went to meet with her, she adorned herself and taunted him while looking down out of an upstairs window. Let's go on over to 2 Kings, and we will be in chapter 9. And we're going to learn how this lady ended her days. All right. 2 Kings 9, this is going to be 30 through 37. When Jehu came to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her eyes and adorned her head and looked out the window. And as Jehu entered the gate, she said, "It is peace, you Zimri, murderer of your master." And he lifted up his face to the window and said, "Who is on my side? Who?" 2 or 3 eunuchs looked out at him. He said, "Throw her down." So they threw her down, and some of her blood splattered on the wall and on the horses, and they trampled her. Then he went in and ate and drank, and he said, "See now to this cursed woman and bury her, for she is a king's daughter." But when they went to bury her, they found no more of her than the skull and the feet and the palms of her hand. And when they came back and told him, he said, "This is the word of the Lord, which he spoke by his servant Elijah the Tishbite. In the territory of Jezreel, the dogs shall eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the corpse of Jezebel shall be as dung on the face of the field in the territory of Jezreel, so that no one can say, 'This is Jezebel.'" Is that not awful? Yeah, somehow they don't read that to you in little kid Bible class. I mean, I can't even imagine why, but we just always knew Jezebel was bad, but I never read how that she had died. So obviously kind of gross.
We there that still goes on today, because do you remember when they found Osama bin Laden and killed him? He was buried at sea,
Really?
so no one could ever find him and make him,
Huh,
um,
worshiping her.
have a memorial. To
Wow.
him.
I didn't know that. That's
Mhm.
Wow.
cute.
Yeah, so Jehu knew what this woman was made of. He'd ordered the members of her own court to push her out of the window, and the blood splattering on the wall and on the horses, and yeah, the horses trampled her, and then he just goes inside to have a drink. So, and then because she was the daughter of a king, he said, well, he would bury her, but then obviously there was nothing left. And there was a few, people's opinion on why the skull and the hands and the feet were left. And of course, the Bible does not tell us. So, you can make your own assumptions there that for whatever reason that was. But obviously the lesson was met with some gruesome death, it says, because of what she did against God. And obviously that what goes around comes around. Lesson 5 that they suggest: you might not have been born of royal heritage. You might not be married to a king. You might not even have any of the good qualities that Jezebel had, which I don't see as good. Well, I guess she had good qualities. She had qualities that could have been used for good. But there might be a little bit of Jezebel in you. To avoid the gruesome death that Jezebel encountered, turn to God instead of turning away from him. Don't use your influence to turn others away from God. Treat people with love and respect. Don't manipulate them and falsely accuse them just to get what you want. Jezebel's story should teach us that no bad deed goes unpunished. So I believe that is the end. Yes. How did we do on time? Man, we didn't do bad. It covered up my clock. I couldn't see my clock as I was talking. I was afraid I was going to look at it. It was going to be like 8:45. But yes, any other lessons that y'all kind of see in the whole Jezebel story that maybe we didn't talk about, other than the one that we tipped on there at the end about the influence of your spouse? But in a positive way too. Teresa, I remember you telling us that you were not a member of the church, so obviously you had good influence from your spouse, and he brought you to know the Lord. So there's other people probably that can say that as well, that it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing to be influenced by your spouse. It can be a very good thing.
So, and I was thinking about what Kayla was saying about her sister, and just, having a good feeling about it, and that kind of thing. But, just teaching our kids the importance of finding a like-minded, Christian-minded person, to marry. And I know, the older women that have had children, of course, you've done that, and you young people, you just cannot put enough emphasis on that. You just can't. And I would like to say to young girls or guys, if they're not coming to church with you when you're dating, in my mind, there is not a really good chance of them coming after you get married. And, just moving, thinking forward and thinking about raising your children.
Yes.
And there was a woman, and some of you would know her if I called her name, but probably most of you would not. But there was a woman that, Nick is 38, so we've been at Northport 38 years, because I was 2 weeks away from having him when we moved down here. So it's been a long time ago. But there was a woman that had a good person that married, she was a member of the church, and she married someone of a belief that was very different, very, very different. There were things like at Christmas, for example, she would put up a tree. He would take the tree down. She would put it back up. And the children, saw that. One week they would go with one parent, and Ginger, you've talked about this, I think, some with your parents. And then they would go with the other one. But several years ago, I ran into this person. I had not seen them in years. They moved, and I just had not seen them in years. And so we were talking. I said, now, where are you going to church now? And she said, I'm going with my husband now. So, the pull, the influence, and I'm thinking about another person that I know that we had a conversation not long ago, and her husband, when they married, he was a youth minister. And, in another congregation, not around here, but he was a youth minister. And during that, he had a very bad experience with some of the members of the congregation. I don't know what it was, and certainly didn't need to know. But during that time, they had married, had some children. She was very strong in her beliefs, and he just became an atheist. I mean, he would just tell her that he did not even believe. And a while back, I had a chance to sit down and we studied a little bit together. And she is coming over to his side. And he has just talked with her. She loves him as a husband. And she is becoming very sympathetic, I guess, for lack of another word, with where he is and what his belief system is. And, her what we talked about was, well, how do you know that you know? Remember Joe Williams?
Yeah.
How do you know that you know that you know? And, just the influence. And, it's just so important to teach our young children and kids growing up and dating and getting to the, point where they're going to marry, to work those things out as best you can before you get married, So
I never understood the importance of it. My mother pushed that in my entire life. And until I was 4 years deep in it, I didn't see how awful it was to have somebody that was borderline atheist and, just didn't nowhere near even on the same planet that I was raised with. And then by the grace of God to end up with a husband that like I have, that was raised in the same type of church, just the night and day difference. Sadly, I don't think everybody comes out of it the way I did, without being, permanently influenced. So just, I'm so thankful.
David said to me when we were on our way to Kentucky last weekend, he said, we have a lot of opportunity. It's like 6 hours. And so we have a lot of opportunity to talk. And he said, do you ever think about all the things that happened that made it to where we got together? And I said, no, I don't, because I'm always thinking about, the floor's dirty or something like that, not important things. I'm the Martha. Is that right? Am I the Martha?
Yes.
Okay. And but I mean, you think that's how I got my good husband. I had a good husband before, but I married a man who, in my first marriage, who was really confused about religion. And I'm telling you, to have someone on the same belief system as you is priceless. It's just priceless.
Not to worry about what they're going to teach your children.
Right.
And
the discipline will be closer together when you have the same belief system as well. And I'm not necessarily talking about always spanking a child or not spanking a child. I'm just talking about that you believe that there should be discipline, because the Bible teaches that, whatever that discipline is. But anyway.
We've all known men and women that came to church alone. And I've just always just had, such a heart for them, because can you imagine, you're getting ready and somebody might be sitting watching TV or, doing something relaxing. And, I've just always so appreciated and respected, different ones that have done that. I think I've told y'all this story before. Well, I've told that story before, so I just won't tell it again. I don't know why I'm thinking about it, but when I was at County High, this made such an impression on me. It's just, there was this young young man, and I didn't know him that well, but some of the other counselors were telling me about it. He had some younger brothers and sisters, and they did not have the best of homes at all. Did not have good role models at all. And they were telling about that he got on Sunday morning, he got his little brothers and sisters up, got them ready for church. And they were going out the door as his mother was coming in from a night out on the town.
Wow.
I don't know why I just thought of that. That just kind of, I don't even know if it goes together, but I thought of that and just, you know, it's just what an influence that young man was on his younger brothers and sisters, you know, just influence.
Well, and we have one of those mothers at church that y'all all know that has 3 little ones that it was a couple of years ago, the oldest said, no, it was the little boy, the middle one, that said, Daddy, why don't you come to church? And the oldest said, stop asking him. He's not going to come anyway. And the mother just kind of sat there and looked at the dad like out of the mouth of babes. And he comes some, but since the pandemic, I don't think has been back. So that particular family could use a lot of our prayers. And the Lord knows who it is. And if you think about it for a minute, you probably do too. Ladies, I thank y'all so much for listening to me. I'm sorry I read so much of it, but I didn't know it well enough to tell the story without being able to read it. Another reason I wanted to do this one, because I feel I knew less about this than Mary. So next week is going to be Sherry Barrow. And in the month of June, I was telling some of y'all before you got on here, Jillian is in All Stars, and I knew it was every weekend. I didn't know it was every Thursday, Friday, Saturday games. So it looks like it's possible that I will miss every Thursday in June. So I need teachers for June. Like I said, Sherry's going to be doing this next one, which is May. But if any of y'all, let me actually look at a calendar real quick, look at some of those dates. If any of y'all know of one you would like to do, I did order a book recently. It's actually ironically on First Kings. It may have been the Kings, First and Second Kings. It's by Lisa TerKeurst. And I wanted to go through it because it's supposed to be like a ladies devotional book. I'd like to go through it and see if maybe it could be something that we go through together. But she's not a member of the Church of Christ. So I want to go through it and make sure there's not anything that's kind of leans left or leans right. Anyway, but if y'all have any suggestions on what to do, I did make a spreadsheet that shows all the lessons we've done and who did them. And there's also links to each of them. I can send y'all in case you go, okay, I don't know what all we've covered. But maybe that would help a little bit. I went back and watched last week's and realized that y'all had talked about that some. So maybe that will help a little bit. If you did not get that email, let me know. I tried to send it out to those that I could think of off the top of my head. All right. So what's your name? Sherry is the 27th. That leaves the 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th. If anybody wants any of those, just message me and let me know. And we'll just kind of go from there.
I can take the 17th, I think.
All right. That was Cindy.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. I think
Third, what now? 3rd, 10, 17, and 24?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Cindy.
I've got you on the 27th, Sherry. I actually have you on the 3rd too, so I'm going to edit that. I'm not going to ask you to do
Yeah, I don't need to do two.
Come on. All right, let me save that one. But y'all just message me and let me know. If not, I'll have a real fun video for y'all to watch that's like by VeggieTales or something.
I love the VeggieTales. Free time.
I know. It is so
Alice
awesome
watches
sometimes that I
VeggieTales.
just forget.
Sherry put me down for the 10th.
Okay, I'll do it. Thank you, Carla.
I'm thinking I can do the 20, did you say 24th?
Yes, ma'am.
And just, I don't know if you mentioned this. If you did, I had to get up and walk out for a couple of minutes, but you know, we've never heard of a child named Jezebel, right?
No,
That's very true.
not one.
Or a boy named Judas.
Yeah.
Judas.
one of the devotionals I did one night was what's in a name, and it talked about that. And Janine Dodd came up to me the next Sunday. I was like, "You never met anybody named Jezebel or Cain or blah blah blah." She's like, "Wait a minute, I met somebody named Cain," and then there was another one. So, but I just thought, no, I think I could.
There's
come
a
up
lot
with-
of Canes.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
I ran across quite a few Canes in school.
Wow. Make sure that was my
Really?
brother named Abel. Gracious.
Yeah.
Oh.
Can I ask one question? Y'all talked about some at the end of the class last week that you were going over a list of names, but I never got a clear idea of women in that list that we had not covered. I don't know
Let
that
me
it
share my
matters.
screen and I'll show it to you. Hold on.
Is it the thing you sent me, Terry?
Yes, ma'am. That's what that is.
Okay, I'll look at that. I hadn't had a chance to look at it. Yeah, I'll look at that.
Okay.
Okay. Which I'm probably not gonna do a woman because I've already got another lesson in mind, but
No,
we'll see.
that is fine. That is no problem.
We've been known to change our minds and do it different.
I know, right? And that's okay. Sometimes, you pray for the Lord to kind of guide your thoughts, and He guides you way out in left field.
Well,
Well,
I'm kind of like Terry. I like to study something I want to learn more about,
Yeah, exactly.
personally, to be a little bit selfish.
One I don't think that we've studied is the poor widow, have we?
Not
No.
that I saw the poor widow, no, ma'am. And
I
Mary
thought
the
about
widow-
that one.
Priscilla,
What did you say, Cindy?
Priscilla.
I had thought about the widow and her 2 mites and just gifts in general.
I
This
did
is-
something on Priscilla, but it was a long time ago. It wasn't for this, but I remember pulling up a lesson for
You might
Priscilla.
want to pull that lesson and
It was part of another lesson. Nobody remembers it, do they? Shake your head up, down.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast, okay?
I'd like for somebody to do something, or I don't know, on angels.
Oh, man, I would love that.
On
Greg
angels.
Dixon did a good lesson one time on angels. Cindy,
Uh-huh.
Well,
Years
if I knew where
ago-
it was, I'd go get it and steal it, but I don't know where anything like that is.
Years ago,
Uh-huh.
my husband did a whole series, like a whole quarter
Well, there you
on
go.
angels. And I couldn't be in the class. And so I was like, you got to tell me all this stuff.
Mhm.
I could only get part of it, but it is amazing what all is in the Bible about angels.
Yeah, because apparently they're still active because,
Bible
it
says they are.
says be careful because you may entertain angels unaware.
I've taught that to the kids sometimes, you never
Mhm.
know who you're coming in contact with. All right, ladies, click on that link under messages, and that will let you see all of the lessons that we have done with the exception of the last probably week or two.
where is it?
Go like you're
Under
gonna
chat.
chat, where it says chat or
Chat.
send message.
Participants? No.
Cat, right beside it.
Depends on what kind of screen you're on.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
see it on mine.
I have it, and it says it's a PDF, but it's not letting me. I'm getting a ton of stuff, but it doesn't look like it's what you wanted us to see.
All right, let me try saving it.
Okay, I think I got it. Here's a link to it. Click to download.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. It's just a 2-page PDF. I'm gonna save it as a JPEG, like a picture file. So maybe that'll be a little bit easier to see.
Yeah,
I
I've
just-
gotta go. I've gotta go get milk for Pax and Bear.
Okay, well, you have a good night. We will see
Okay.
y'all later. I will be sure these hopefully are recorded so I can see if you're not there.
I was gonna ask
Thank
you.
you. Great job. Good to see everybody.
Y'all too, ladies.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Night, night.
Good night.
Bye.